Universal Studios Hollywood. It looks harmless enough by day, but at nights in October, it turns into Halloween Horror Nights. I am standing inside the Globe Theater, where there is about to be a makeup demonstration of effects that will be seen at this year's Halloween event. I'm sure many of you are wondering what Universal has in store for you at this year's Halloween Horror Nights. I'm about to go inside and find out. Come along with me, if you dare. John Murdy, Halloween Horror Nights. A couple questions here.
Sure.
Halloween Horror Nights is all about bringing horror movies to life, but with Alice Cooper, La Llorona, and even to some extent Silent Hill and Walking Dead.
Absolutely.
Are you leaving the movies behind this year?
No, I think we're expanding our brand is what we're doing. I've done a lot of horror movie franchises over the years. I've done almost every major horror movie franchise. But horror evolves. You know, you talk about something like Walking Dead. I don't think you would have seen that on TV even like 5 years ago. And I'm a huge fan of that series. And it's hugely popular and people love The Walking Dead. So we want to, as horror as a genre evolves, we need to evolve with it. You know, embracing video games, which is not something I would have done back in the early days of the event. That's different for us as well. But I just think horror is evolving and we need to be right there on that cutting edge.
You mentioned Walking Dead, and that seems to me to be a challenge because the strength of that show, I think, is the drama. The monsters are zombies, and we've seen zombies before. How do you translate that into 3D into a 3D maze that is not just zombies?
Well, I think it's a couple of different things. The Walking Dead also has really great iconic environments, and what's really cool about it, what I always like with any property, I love working on properties that have, if it's a movie, multiple movies, because depending, you know, whether it's part 1 or part 9, we get to pick and choose. You know, we get to pick our favorite bits and putting it together. At Walking Dead, we have 2 seasons to work with, so we get to go through the shows, watch all the episodes, and select the things that we think are going to be most impactful in a haunted attraction. And the walkers are very unique. They're different from a lot of other walkers or zombies. And working directly with Greg Nicotero, we get to utilize the molds from the show to bring those to life. And what we're really trying to do with Walking Dead is, you know, we want to put you in the footsteps of the human survivors. We want to make you feel like they're feeling on the show as they try to navigate the zombie apocalypse.
You mentioned picking the bits and pieces you like. I'm wondering with something like, for example, Alice Cooper, how much collaboration is necessary? Could you just sit down, watch one of the shows and say, I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing? Or?
No, we do an enormous amount of research on any property we're working on. For Alice, I did that research when I was 10. You know, I'm a huge Alice Cooper fan. I can quote any lyric from any Alice Cooper song ever recorded. So I have this like encyclopedic knowledge of Alice, and it's something he always talks to me about. He's like, you know my music better than I do at this point. But when we talked about doing this particular attraction, Alice Cooper Goes to Hell in 3D, last year we did Welcome to My Nightmare. This was the album that was the sequel to Welcome to My Nightmare, so it was kind of a natural for us. But I had a different little spin that I wanted to pitch to Alice on it, and it was, I want to take your music, but I also want to bring in the idea of Dante's Inferno and the idea of multiple levels of hell, and particularly the 7 deadly sins and poetic justice. And I want to modernize that, but I want to do it being informed by Alice Cooper's lyrics and his elements from his stage show. And when I sat down to talk to Alice about it, he goes, oh, that's interesting. That was my inspiration for Goes to Hell, so I guess we think alike.
Exactly. Obviously, Halloween Horror Nights, in terms of production value, you're way ahead of anybody else out there. But one of the things maybe the smaller haunts can do is that kind of intimate interactivity. Is there any way you can drag that into something that's got to satisfy, you know, thousands of fans a night?
I think when we design any attraction for Halloween Horror Nights, we always design it for whether it's an employee preview, which is our dress rehearsal, where we might, you know, have 3,000 people, you know, versus a sold-out Saturday night. So as we design the scares, we have to think about both of those scenarios and try to use all of our toolkit, tricks of the trade, to impact our guests and terrify our guests no matter what the situation is. But it's not like when I was 10 years old in my parents' garage, building a haunted house for the neighborhood kids. I'm building it for thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So it's something you take into consideration when you design them.
Okay, you kind of answered this already in regards to Alice Cooper, but I'm thinking of mazes whose titles we've seen last year. What do you say to someone who's going, well, La Llorona, I saw it last year, why should I come back?
It's not the same maze. I think, let's talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I did Texas in 2007, I did it in 2008, but I did the remake. And I've always wanted to do the original. And I know Toby Hooper, he's a big fan of our event, he's come multiple times. And over the years, I've always said, Toby, when are we going to do your movie? Because growing up in the 70s, that movie had a huge influence on me. And now we're doing it. And it's top to bottom, a brand new maze. So, some of the titles you may have seen before, but it's a lot of new experiences.